Good evening, everyone. I'm going to try and do this one really quick. I'm tired. It's Gordon, Causey, Gordy Canuck, Roasette, Candy the Wonder Pup, wanting her mandatory treat. Go get lost. Um, I was working this evening and I got home. I wasn't intending to do a video tonight, but something popped out at me. I did a quick check of my news feeds and such, and I came across an article that is linked below. It's a Substack article. I myself write a Substack. Anyone can write a Substack. However, this one is written by an Alberta doctor. His name is Dr. William Makis, and Makis is spelled Makis. He is he's an actual medical doctor, nuclear medicine, oncology, and I verified his bona fides. He's a genuine Canadian medical professional, medical doctor. He doesn't have a PhD. It's not a PhD in gender studies or theology or philosophy. Actual medical doctor. And if you Google search his name, even the mainstream press, legacy media, acknowledges his credentials. And you'll find stories saying that he is promoting unproven conspiracy theories. Unproven. Just because a conspiracy is unproven doesn't mean that it's not true. When Watergate happened, before the Watergate hearings, it was an unproven conspiracy theory. Then it was proven. So, cutting right to the chase. But before I get going, I guess I should throw in my my disclaimer that I myself, I am not a medical doctor. But no degrees in any scientific discipline. These are the thoughts, views, and opinions of one man. And I'm going to do my darndest to stay away from the word that starts with V. I'll come up with a euphemism instead of a word that starts with the letter V. And the article is about 5 Canadian young Canadian teenagers who have all died in their sleep in the past few weeks. In the article he's published, it says within the last month. 2023 is not even 2 months old, and we now have 5 Canadian teenage kids aged 17 to 19 who have died in their sleep in this country. If that's not what they call, I believe it's referred to as a 6 Sigma event, something that's once in multiple lifetimes, the odds of this happening have to be incredibly remote, small, minuscule. And all credit to this Dr. Makis for chronicling this. I'd seen these. I think I've seen all 5, but he's put them together. And it starts out, the article just starts out detailing the 5 deaths. On February 6, 2023, 17-year-old William Caron Cabrera from Laval, Quebec, died in his sleep following a cardiac arrest. And you can click, he provides a reference. And it's a story, it's totalement en français from a publication in Laval, Quebec. Fortunately, I can read French. The next one is on February 4, 2023, 17-year-old Tyree Rogers from Chestermere, Alberta, died in his sleep. Click here. On January 11th, 17-year-old Noah Buzane from Paradise, Newfoundland, died in his sleep. Click here. On January 6th, 2023, 19-year-old Jaden Lopez, Edmonton, Alberta, died in his sleep. Click here. On December 30th, 2022, 18-year-old Theo James Gibbs, Regina, Saskatchewan, died in his sleep. Click here. So it's a little over a month. There's one here from December 30th. But what are the chances in such a short time frame of 5 kids, 5 male teens dying in their sleep? And why are they completely unrelated? And I'm going to suggest something. If there was a product on the Canadian market, and if all 5 of those individuals had consumed that product before dying, maybe they consumed it twice. Let's call it a chocolate bar. Let's say all of these 5 individuals ate the same type of chocolate bar before dying in their sleep. Twice. They ate the same kind of chocolate bar twice. Maybe it was recommended to them that having an extra chocolate bar would give them a boost. If that had happened, that chocolate bar would be removed, I would submit. Not 100% sure, but I'm very confident as a non-expert. But that chocolate bar, that type of chocolate bar would be removed from the market. Now, maybe that type of chocolate bar, maybe there would be more than one brand of that type of chocolate bar. It might behoove authorities to find out, did they all consume the same brand of chocolate bar, of that type of chocolate bar, or did they have different brands? If they were different brands, imagine it's a chocolate bar which has some special formulation of a modified almond. Well, then all chocolate bars with that modified almond, I would imagine, would be removed from the marketplace. And this is, forget the UFOs. Don't want to forget what's happening in Ohio with the train derailment and vinyl chloride being burned off into the air, and reportedly even in the mainstream poisoning water. That's significant. But I know that a lot of people have been looking for something that would send everything crashing down. And I am unfortunately too cynical at times, and I look at the forces that we're up against. And the only thing that'll break it down is public opinion. And so I'm going to invite you to share that Substack article far and wide, but beyond that, talk about it. Talk about it at work, with your friends, with your family, with people you bump into. Did you hear that 5 teenage kids, 5 boys aged 17 to 19, have died within just the last few weeks and in their sleep? What's going on? Maybe they all had that chocolate bar. I know that one of those individuals is the most recent one from Laval, Quebec. He's he was a football player, and from what I understand, to play football in La Belle Province, if you want to play football in Quebec, as a young man, chocolate bars are required. There was a picture from Mountain, I believe, Saskatchewan. Is the last one. Yeah, Regina, Saskatchewan. 18-year-old Theo Gibbs. I remember reading about him at the end of last year, early start of this year. And he was on a baseball scholarship to the United States. The American authorities will not let you fly into their country unless you have a chocolate bar. I think two. I think you're required to have the two chocolate bars. And the reason I think that this kind of story can blow up and that it can put a dent in things is because I've seen it happen once before, and I've referenced it many times. In October of 2021, in the province of Alberta, same province that this Dr. Makis is from, the Chief Medical Officer of Health for the province of Alberta, they call it Alberta Health Services. Her name was and is Dr. Dina Hinshaw. She held a press conference in Alberta, again, going back to October of 2021. And she announced that the province of Alberta had just recorded its youngest ever death from COVID. And a 14-year-old child. And she noted that the child had underlying health conditions, but that regardless, this was a COVID death and the youngest ever in the province of Alberta. The press at that press conference took Dina Hinshaw to task for mentioning that this child had underlying health conditions, because they said that took away from that had the potential to take away from the impact. And that people would say, well, by mentioning other health conditions, people are going to say, well, it had nothing to do with COVID. When we need, they wanted, the press was urging Dina Hinshaw to make it all about COVID. And that's the way it was maintained, except for the fact that this young lad had two sisters, I believe older, and they started making noise. They went to the press. They went to CBC, CTV Global. They wanted people to know that their 14-year-old brother had been suffering from terminal stage 4 inoperable brain cancer, and that was receiving palliative care, end-of-life care, where they give you morphine and try and keep you as comfortable as possible because they know you're going to be dying soon. And they had taken this kid, and 2 days before his fully expected tragic passing, they'd subjected this child to a COVID test, and they weaponized his death and used it to drive fear. And I would wager compliance for the very soon to be authorized chocolate bars. And it would have stayed dead, except these girls, his two sisters, went to a publication in Alberta referred to it. It's called the Western Standard. It was an alternative media outlet. It's not in the mainstream. And they ran it up a high flagpole. And what happened was it went viral. Everyone started to learn, oh my God, look at this. They're taking a kid, 14 years old, tragic kid dying of, a sarcoma, a brain cancer, stage 4 inoperable, likely on morphine and other drugs to keep him as comfortable as possible because he's terminally ill and going to be dying very soon. And they subject this kid to a COVID test so that they can blame COVID for his death when it had nothing, when it's cancer. And because the Western Standard story blew up, went viral, the Alberta Health Services and Dina Hinshaw was forced to issue a public apology. And she said it was a mistake, that they had made an error in judgment. And I don't like to swear on my videos, but sometimes it's warranted. That is grade A fucking bullshit. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew exactly what she was doing. That was not an error. That was not a mistake. And the same, I will submit that the same error and the same mistakes, which aren't errors and aren't mistakes, are being willfully made. And right now, thanks to this Dr. Makis, we have chronicled in a reasonably decent fashion. The only thing is, this man is not a journalist. He is a doctor, one who apparently takes his Hippocratic oath seriously. The Hippocratic oath is to do no harm and preserve human life. I don't know how exactly it's worded, but those are the two principal precepts of the Hippocratic oath: to do no harm and to preserve human life. And if there is a commonality among these 5 deaths, these 5 teenagers, 17 to 19, dying in their sleep over just a short, window of a few weeks, not even 2 months. If there is a unifying, if there is a commonality between all 5, if they all ate the same chocolate bar twice, and maybe even ate an extra chocolate bar to get a boost from, well, that is significant. So share this as much as possible. I've got a puny little voice, but I've referenced Horton Hears a Who before, where if you don't know that book, all the Who's down in Whoville have to scream at the top of their lungs, and it's the tiniest little girl who at the end breaks through, and that's what saves Whoville. It's a children's book, Dr. Seuss. But what I'm advocating is that share this story far and wide, and don't just share it, talk about it. You know that the kid in Quebec, the football player, the football associations in Quebec did require the chocolate bars. The young lad who was playing baseball down in California, he would not have been able to fly into the United States had he not eaten his 2 chocolate bars. These stories are coming hard to find. These stories are becoming hard to find. Sometimes they're written in the mainstream press, often they're not. When you go to Dr. Makis's Substack, and on the click here portion, some of them are mainstream articles. The one about the baseball player from Regina is a mainstream. I think it's the Regina Leader Post. The one from this kid, the most recent one in Quebec, that's a Laval publication, mainstream. Others, though, are obituary pages from a funeral home or a GoFundMe page. And so it's getting harder and harder, and goodness knows there may be more than just this 5, because they are not being widely reported. And not everyone publishes their family member's obituary online. Not everyone does a GoFundMe. Things can happen below the radar, even in today's world. So that's the end of my video. Like, share, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. But that article, that Substack article written by Dr. William Makis, spread it out. If you've got Facebook, share it on Facebook. If you've got Reddit, share it on Reddit. If you have Instagram, share it on Instagram, TikTok, whatever. I have Twitter, Facebook, and my miserable and pathetic little YouTube channel. So thank you for watching, and I'm going to bed. Good night, all.